so this is gonna be one of my more personal videos as I wait for my food to finish cooking. Basically, you all can read the title. This video is going to be talking about my experience with smoking and how I almost died, not once but twice, from smoking and abusing it. And so, without further ado, this is all off the top of the head, so I didn't write down any notes or anything like that. I'm gonna just go straight into it, and if I like the way the video comes out, I'm gonna just upload it. So yeah, this is gonna be this is probably gonna be the most personal video about me that I've uploaded so far. So jumping into it, first time I got hospitalized from smoking was back in 2019 of September. And at the time I was biking. I've been doing the gig economy, or bike deliveries, courier life, whatever you want to call it. Uber Eats, Grubhub, DoorDash, Caviar. Got bought by DoorDash, whatever. I've been doing that for probably like 3-4 years now. So I was heavy into the smoking addiction at the time, and I got what the doctors would have called a pleural effusion. If you never heard of it, briefly, it is when you get a fluid buildup on not the inside of your lung. That's what they call pneumonia. But there's a membrane around your lung that your lung sits in, it's capsulated in, and that membrane was started to get a lot of excess fluid and liquid buildup on it, and they call that pleural effusion. So I had one of those. I believe it was building up for a very long time, but I was just so used to feeling it that I really didn't even notice it until it started getting painful, because I would inhale and exhale, and when I would inhale all the way in, I would feel this pain on my left lung. Long story short, it started to give me fatigue, and to the point where I would get winded and tired with little to no exertion. I couldn't bike fast as I normally would. So I went to the doctor. They told me I had pleural effusion, and they went about giving me this procedure called a thoracentesis, if I remember it correctly. Thoracentesis is when they put this, they numb you up, and through your back, they extract with a syringe, a very thin syringe needle. They extract that fluid out of the membrane of your lung, and so that they won't puncture the lung, they do a what's it called? I forgot the process, but they put that little fluid. I'm sorry, not fluid. I put that little topical ointment on you so that they could better see with that machine where everything is. So they puncture through the membrane, but they don't puncture the lung. So they did that, and they extracted quite the amount of fluid. I think the first time, it was a while ago, but I think the first time they extracted like 1 to 2 liters or some shit. And then after that, I was still in the hospital. So like a couple of days later, I guess my body was getting rid of all the poison, acidosis that was built up within my system. So that was just kind of what I believe is that was just my body's way of reacting to it. But everybody's body reacts differently, you know. Some people's body might not get a pleural effusion. Some people's bodies might get a fucking foot effusion, or you know, you might get some in your foot. Speaking of feet, at that same time, yeah, sorry about that. At that same time, I got a rash on my foot around that same time I had the pleural effusion. So I definitely was going through some autoimmune shiznits. And the rash is not even completely gone. Let me see if I can show it to you guys. Right here. If you see that little dark area right there, that's where it was. But it looked so much worse than that. Like, I would scratch it and it was bleeding. And it was, first it started off as a super small spot, and then it just grew into what you guys see here to here. And I also had a little small spot on the back of my right above my whatever this area is called right here. All right, getting back to concluding the story. So that was the first time, and before I left the hospital that time, yeah, my doctor at the time, he diagnosed me with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. It was non-Hodgkin's. Pretty certain it was non-Hodgkin's. And they said I had a growth building. At the time, he said it was non-malignant, which means it's not cancer. At first, it was like, it's not a malignant growth right here on my left lung where I felt all that discomfort and dis-ease. And you know, as any person that is uninformed as to exactly what cancer is, I was feeling a little frightened. You know, it was like, you have cancer. If you leave the hospital, which I did. It was this Oriental doctor that I'll never forget his face. He was like, yeah, whoppy whoppy, since you're leaving against medical advice, AMA they call it, he was basically like, he believes that I only have 6 months to live. And I was like, okay. Then I left the hospital. And at the time, I wanted to take the holistic approach. Trying to fix all the disease that I was feeling with my pleural effusion. Oh wait, I skipped a part. They convinced me to get a biopsy right here on my chest. They put me to sleep. They was like, yeah, we need to dig in your chest and see if it's cancerous. So we need to take some of those cancer cells and look at them under a microscope. So they put me to sleep. They extracted some of the growth that was there at the time. Even though they did say it was shrinking, they took some of it and they did some studies on it, whoppy whoppy. Then that's when they came back and told me it looks like non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. But before they did the biopsy, they didn't say it was that. So moving along, I left the hospital, AMA. Doctor told me I had 6 months to live. And what I did was I wanted to take the holistic approach. So I bought, for the first time, some iron-rich herbs, which I still have to this day. I spent like $250 on some iron-rich herbs. My brother went half. My brother and I, we matched on the herbs, actually. I made a clip about those herbs. It's like burdock, yellow dock, sarsaparilla, and dandelion. And I got elderberry, but those four were the iron, specifically the iron rich ones. I bought that and I bought sea moss. And at the time, I started a regimen of drinking tea like multiple times a day, like 4 or 5 times a day. Damn near like as much as I could at the time. And I stopped smoking until I eased back into it. So yeah, that was my first hospitalization. Fast forward, so I was maintaining, sustaining. Fast forward all the way to my second hospitalization, because eventually I just fell back into the habit of killing myself through excessive chain smoking, and that was my relief method. So I went back into chain smoking, killing myself once again. Fast forward all the way up until the same feeling. It came back. I felt the discomfort in my chest, shortness of breath, fatigue. And I told my the elders in my family, my mother. So I was like, yeah, I need to go to the hospital. I feel like shit. So I went to the hospital. What ended up happening was, I actually vaguely remember when I actually went into the hospital, because what ended up happening was they gave me some type of substance. I don't know if it was an antibiotic or a medicine. Sure, it was a drug. They gave me some kind of drug I was allergic to. It was in the same family as azithromycin and erythromycin, but I don't think it was either one of those, but it was in the same family. Long story short, it made me go into shock, and I had a seizure. First time I ever had a seizure in my life. And I had a seizure. And from what I understand, after that seizure, I was intubated, if I'm pronouncing that word correctly. I was intubated for damn near like a week and some change. So once I woke up from that state, the intubation state, my memory, it was like super like vague. I've never experienced that kind of memory loss in my life. Like, I woke up, and while I was asleep for that amount of time, I was drugged up, and they was like probably sucking fluid all out my lungs, and while I was asleep over that week span, they had a machine. They put a machine down my throat, and the machine was breathing for me. It was helping me breathe. But in one of my dreams, I didn't know what was going on, because, like I said, I suffered a little bit of memory loss with that seizure, and in the middle of my sleep one day or one night, I basically pulled that oxygen machine straight out my throat. Yeah, like, almost killed myself. I just pulled it out my throat. I remember it because I thought I was dreaming. I remember me pulling with more force and just and just pulled it out. And after I pulled it out, I just remember I was like, felt like a fish out of water, bro. Just straight up just choking, suffocating, until the doctors came and they saw what I did, and they went about fixing myself from doing that. So after I did that, eventually I woke up. When I woke up, Again, memory very vague. I remember hallucinating. I think like one of my socks was off or something. And I thought that I was in a mall with my mom because I kept hearing her voice as she was visiting me in the hospital. I kept hearing her voice. One day she was like, "What's wrong?" I was like, "Somebody stole my shoe or something." So I thought somebody stole my shoe. My mom was telling me to like, deep breathing. She was giving me words of encouragement like deep breathing and don't worry, we could get you some more shoes. That's not important right now. So as I woke up, my memory was coming back. Then I literally thought I was in a whole dream, different reality or something. I woke up. One of the nurses gave me my phone. I didn't even know it was my phone. She was like, "Is this your phone?" I started looking at it. And, I was looking at it, like analyzing it. And as I was analyzing it, I was like, "Oh, this is my phone." Turned it around, saw the color spectrum on the phone case. And I was like, "Okay, this is my phone." But it was off for like a week. So I had to actually wait. It was like some cooldown time. I turned it on. It was like, you have to wait such and such amount of time before we could reconnect you to the server, whatever. So, yeah, long story short, I went into shock. Woke up. I actually have a couple clips of when I was asleep. My mom recorded a couple clips and sent them to me. When they was vacuuming out my lungs, liquid and whatever else. And continuing going, I was in the hospital for probably like another week and a half. It felt like an eternity though, no cap. I felt like I was in there for an eternity. And I woke up like, so that had to happen like in April of this year, 2021. And I woke up in May. And I'm gonna make this into another video, but after I woke up and once I finally got discharged out the hospital, I signed up for chemotherapy. As they were telling me, yeah, lymphoma. Only way to beat lymphoma is chemotherapy, wapty. I was induced. The drugs in my system had me not thinking all the way right. And I was like, okay. People in my family, they agreed with the doctors. So I signed up. And I signed up for 12, one every 2 weeks sessions of chemotherapy. Out of 12 sessions, I got 4 of them. And my hair, it literally just started growing back. Like 3 to 4 weeks ago or 2 to 3 weeks ago. But before then, like all this was gone. The chemotherapy had me feeling like hot trash, no cap. But I was trying to make the most of it. And they were asking me like, yeah, how are you doing? How are you feeling? How's the chemo have you feeling? I was like, good. I feel good. Getting stronger. When I first got out the hospital, I was 100 pounds. Right now, I'm probably like 125. I've always been like 125 pounds since like freshman year, no cap. Most I've probably been is like 130. I always fluctuate from like 115 to like 130 pounds. So when I first got out the hospital, because I was laying in one spot for so long, I was only 100 pounds. I put the weight back on relatively quickly. I wasn't smoking for like that whole second experience with death. I wasn't smoking for probably like a month. I did I did ease back into smoking, and I still dibble and dabble with it now, but nothing like the chain smoking I was doing. 2-3 blunts a day type of time, which caused a malfunction for myself. I'm not trying to create an excuse for smoking. Smoking is very trash, and anybody that is anybody that wants to stop, I would recommend them to do it as soon as possible. I'm strictly talking about weed smoking, by the way. Long time ago, I did try squares. It wasn't for me. Shit was like the wackest version of weed ever. That's how I kind of related. But so when I first got out that hospital, I was doing chemo until I had to give chemo the boot because it had me feeling like trash, and then I was just like going bald. I woke up with locks. The chemo made my locks come out at an exponential rate. Now my hair start growing back. Happy about that. When I first started getting those THC cravings, I went into edibles, and then that was the first time I tried RSO. If you don't know what RSO is, it stands for Rick Simpson oil. And now I depend on Rick Simpson oil to give me that comfort high, I'll say, that I was so used to, because I've been a weed smoker for like 10 years, ever since like right before I graduated from high school. So I started when I was like 17, 18 years old, and I didn't figure out how trash that shit was until like a year ago. Almost killed myself a couple times. So that's I think that pretty much concludes this video. If I think of anything else, I'll make a part 2 or something, but yeah, that's that. That's how I almost died from smoking 2 times. And if you have anything you want to ask me, go ahead, let me know what y'all think in the comments. If you fuck with the content, go ahead and subscribe, thumbs up, all that good stuff. With that, peace. Thanks for watching.